Morning guys, I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School. I'm out here in a piece of woods today in the wildlife area and I'm mushroom hunting. And I've had lots and lots of questions over the years, the 10 years I've been putting videos on YouTube about mushrooms, eating mushrooms, identifying mushrooms. And I've stayed away from that topic for a long time because I really truly believe that in a basic survival scenario, you have no business worrying about mushrooms. You really have no business worrying about plants in a 72-hour type scenario because you shouldn't have to eat. You should only be worried about water, core temperature control, shelter, signaling for rescue, or navigating your way out, and self-aid, things like that. But longer term, and becoming a better woodsman, you want to understand what fungi is edible in the woods in your area. And there are lots and lots of edible mushrooms out there. We have a kind of a phobia of mushrooms in the US, it seems like, compared to places like Europe. And really my interest got piqued on mushrooms really hard when I was in Sweden last year talking to a mushroom expert over there. And this year I began to do some studies in the eastern woodlands looking at different types of mushrooms. And so I guess this video is really kind of advice about how did I go about doing that? How did I go about learning mushrooms without going to some expert in the US and saying, show me what's what? Well, really, it's kind of like the advice I give people when it comes to plants. Learn the ones that are really poisonous, because there's really only a few in the US, at least in the eastern woodlands. There's only a few Amanita type mushrooms that'll really jack you up. There's several mushrooms out there that'll make you sick, they'll make you throw up, they'll give you cramps, they might make you wish you were dead, but they're not going to kill you. And again, different people react different ways to mushrooms. So I'm not telling you to eat the same things I eat. This is not a identify this mushroom and eat it type video. This is just a video to talk through what I do when it comes to mushrooms. And today I've kind of found a mushroom that is very plentiful in an area right here. And the first thing I do with a mushroom is I try to find one that's either broken off already, or I break it off with a stick and move it over onto the ground without touching it with my hands, so that I can then, number one, photograph it very well with my iPhone. And then number two, I always carry a really good reference manual like this Audubon Society, which is the one recommended by most of the experts in this field, which I'm not. And I try to compare it to photographs and descriptions within this book. And so I found this one today, and this is a Milky type mushroom. And I can show you the picture here that I've kind of compared it to. And I've went through and I've read the description. The description absolutely matches this mushroom. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to kind of walk back through this book real quick for you guys. And if I believe that this mushroom is what it is, and it almost looks identical to this on the ground laying sideways, it's got the same sunken caps as this other mushroom on the same page. And most of these mushrooms are kind of in the same family in this book. And so now I'm going to go to page 685 and look up this Hygrophorus Milky mushroom. And it's on page 685, so I turn back to page 685 and I start to read through the description and look at the mushroom up close and personal. Once I've determined that it's not a poisonous variety, or doesn't appear to be, because I don't want to touch it if it's poisonous. So I go to 685 and I look at this description, and it says that it is flat or sunken and almost vase shaped, which you can see by this one, it is sunken and it's turned into kind of an upward vase. It's got minutely velveted surface. It's got wrinkles at times, orange or brown in color. I would give it that for sure. Sometimes becoming cream color. Thick and orange, brown or paler, white when it's in first bloom. Elliptical, ornate, spores white. Okay, spore pattern is something that you can do by taking the mushroom home, cutting the base of it off, cutting the stem off, putting it under glass so that it releases its spores onto a piece of paper, and see what color the spore deposit is. That helps you positively identify the mushroom. But looking at this, looking at the gills, looking at the way the description is on here, I'm very confident at this point that that's what this mushroom is. Now, knowing where these are at, I don't have to pick a bunch of these today. That's why I've got the phone with me. I'm going to take a bunch of pictures of this mushroom in different stages of its life. Smaller ones, bigger ones, older ones, ones that are just coming up, because there's a bunch of them right here. Probably 30 or 40 of them right here in this area. Then I'm going to go back home and I'm going to pull up on the internet this species and look at each individual species and try to compare them on mushroomexpert.com, places like that that have really good pictures and information, and compare by 2 or 3 different sources to the pictures that I have and exactly what I remember about the mushroom, because I'm going to write some things down. You know, things that I would write down is it seems to have a milky deposit within the gills, latex. It's got the sunken shape on the top. It's got gills that are fairly widely spaced, whether they're connected to the stem or not connected, whether the stem is club-shaped or straight, the color, all those types of things are things that I want to write down in my notes. And then I'm going to pull out my phone. And again, I'm not a big fan of phones for navigation, but for this kind of stuff, I'm going to pull my phone off this tripod and mark the location of these mushrooms on my GPS. Because if I go home tonight and research it, and I think it's a good edible mushroom, I'm going to come back tomorrow and probably take at least a sample and eat a piece of it and wait a few hours and see how my body reacts to it. And that's the other side of this coin is when you find a mushroom that you think is edible, if you're not sure what it is, you don't eat a ton of it. And even when you come upon a mushroom that you know exactly what it is, but you've never eaten it before, you don't eat a ton of it. You eat a little bit of it and see how your body reacts to it, because you just don't know how it's going to react if you've never had that in your body before. So we'll talk further about these in just a few minutes. Let's explore some more, because what I'm really looking for today is some chanterelles. Okay, here's the one we're looking for. This is a chanterelle. Very, very easily recognizable mushroom. It looks like the gills kind of, which aren't really gills, but they run all the way down the stem. It's orange in color. And if you find one, you generally will find quite a few of them. And I'm going to look around right here because I've already got 3 of them in my bag. My collection bag here. I'm going to collect a few more if I can find them. Okay. Well, now we just hit the mother lode of chanterelles here. And I'm going to walk on the outskirts of this area and just start picking them and putting them in my basket here. And the thing about mushroom hunting is, first of all, be very careful and make sure that you look at everything you put in your take-home bag to make sure you identify what you're actually grabbing. Only pick the best of the best. If it's slightly wrinkled up or dried up, don't take it. Take the younger, nice ones. Remember that mushrooms are very much the fruit of the mycelium under the ground, so they're going to come back. This is a really, really nice specimen right here. A beautiful big orange chanterelle. Gorgeous. So we're going to be able to pick enough right here in this area, if I quit stepping on them, to fill up this container, and that will be more than I need. And then I'll mark this spot again on my GPS so that I know where they're at next season or later in the week. There's another great big, 2 great big ones side by side right there. Okay, what I came out here for, besides hunting those chanterelles, was for this guy right here. This is a cauliflower mushroom, and it is edible. Again, they don't advise you to eat mushrooms raw, and there's lots of reasons for that, from digestibility to toxins that may be in the mushroom before it's cooked. Nevertheless, a lot of people eat mushrooms raw every day. I'm not going to eat this raw because I've never eaten this particular type mushroom before, even though I know it's edible. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and experiment. I brought some things out here with me to cook it, and I'm just going to fry these gills kind of like potato chips. Stay with me. So what I've done is I just brought an MSR rocket stove out here, a little bit of oil, Pathfinder skillet, and I'm going to basically just heat this oil up in the skillet with this rocket stove until it's crackling like frying oil. And then I'm going to take this mushroom that we picked not even 5 feet away here, and I'm going to process a few chunks off of that and fry them up. So, to that end, I'm just going to take a couple of these flaps off of here, cut them off, clean the dirt off of them, kind of lay them here to the side for a minute. These gill-shaped things are what I'm after. And if there's a little dirt on them, I don't really care about that, to be honest with you. I don't worry too much about dirt. And I'm not going to eat a lot of it because I've never eaten it before, so I don't know how I'm going to react to it. So I'm just going to eat, 4 or 5 chips and see how my body reacts to it and go from there. Pretty simple, easy way to cook them up. We'll see how they taste when we're done. I don't want to overcook them, but I don't want to undercook them either. They say this stuff is kind of a chewy mushroom, and it's got a lot of cartilage like texture to it. It's tough to get it tender, so I'm not going to worry about getting it tender and try to slow cook it. I'm just going to make it crunchy instead and eat it like that. All right, I think we're going to call that good. Take these dudes out of here and put them on this shamag to drain. Cool down. And we'll give them a shot, see what happens. All right, guys, well, let these dudes cool down a little bit. See what we got. I'll tell you what, not far off a potato chip, to be honest with you. Wow. If I'd have brought some salt out here, them things would have been great. Wow. That was really, really good. Like I said, a little seasoning on those things, that would have been money. I can tell you right now, that mushroom is going in the bag and going to the house. Well, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this little foraging adventure with me today. Just thought I'd bring you out here in the woods with me again. I don't talk about mushrooms very much, and I've really just started learning a lot about them recently. I've always been a morel hunter and things like that, but chicken of the woods, that kind of stuff that you grow up with, common in eastern woodlands. But some of the more diversified species of things I've just started to study myself really hard. But there are several species, probably 10, that you can identify pretty easy that don't have poison lookalikes necessarily. One of them is this cauliflower type mushroom that I showed you a minute ago. And another one is the chanterelles, pretty easy to identify. Most of you probably already know what morels look like. Chicken of the woods, things like dried saddles, all those are pretty hard to mistake for something else unless you get a hold of the false morel. And they're very edible, and they're multi-seasonal. You can find a lot of these mushrooms throughout different seasons, throughout the early spring to the summer and through the late fall as well. And there's other species out there as well that I would encourage you to explore. But what I would encourage you to do is never eat a mushroom that you do not know exactly what it is. Never put that in your mouth. Don't pick up mushrooms or handle mushrooms with your hands that you haven't been able to at least identify as non-deadly poison. And then make sure that if you do try a new mushroom that you only try small amounts at a time, even though it's something edible, like I did today with this cauliflower mushroom, which I'd never eaten before. Even though I know it's an edible mushroom and it's considered to be, a choice edible mushroom at that, I don't know how my body's going to react to it, and until I do, I'm not going to eat a lot of it. I'm going to keep the specimen with me. I've got pictures of the specimen on my phone. If something were to happen, at least I know that's the only thing I've eaten. That's the reason I didn't fry up any chanterelles at the same time, because I want to know that if I get sick, that's what made me sick, and give it to other people to be able to identify when I do get sick so that I can get treatment. Those things are all important to understand. And then again, carry a field guide. carry a field guide with you that you can trust. The Audubon Society field guide is probably the best one out there as far as I'm concerned, to at least get really close. Then take pictures, go home, do research, mark the spot on your GPS, and go back. It's exactly what I did with this cauliflower mushroom. I was positive I knew what it was the day I found it, which was yesterday, I think it was, or day before. But I took pictures of it from different angles, things like that, looked it up in my field guide, went home, compared that on the internet to trustworthy sites on the internet, because they're not all trustworthy, but someplace like I think it's mushroomexpert.com is the name of it that I use. I've got a link saved to it on my desktop. Those sites are trustworthy, and you can use those to cross-reference your manuals, cross-reference what you see in the woods, and then make your own decisions, but make intelligent decisions before you eat anything that's unidentified. I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School. I appreciate you joining me out here today for this video. I appreciate all the things that you do for our school, for our family, for our business, all of our sponsors, instructors, affiliates, and friends. I'll be back with another video as soon as I can. Thanks, guys.